Welcome to Vision Vibes. Today, we're unraveling the complex narrative of global politics and covert operations that led the US and the UK to the rugged terrains of Afghanistan. We'll shed light on the objectives they were aiming to achieve and the subsequent ripple effects their actions triggered on the international stage. It's a tale of ideology, power, and unintended consequences. A journey that takes us from the chilly heights of the Cold War to the scorching deserts of the War on Terror. Before we delve into this intricate tapestry, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell to stay updated, and if you're ready to dive deep into this compelling narrative, give this video a thumbs up. So buckle up as we take you on a journey back in time, starting from the inception of involvement, through the catalyst that was 9/11, the ensuing War on Terror, the prolonged engagement, and finally, the aftermath. Let's get started. Have you ever pondered on why the USA and UK decided to intervene in Afghanistan? The intricate web of international politics intertwined with covert operations illustrates a gripping tale of the USA and UK's unforeseen entanglement in Afghanistan's rugged terrain. Let's delve deeper into the motivations and strategies used by these superpowers during the epic of the Cold War, a period notable for the division of the world into two stark ideological factions. The capitalist West, led by the USA, and the socialist East, championed by the Soviet Union. Afghanistan during this tense period became a ground zero for conflict, attracting these two global powerhouses. The invasion in 1979 was a crucial turning point. Amid the looming shadows of the Cold War, both the USA and UK, perturbed by the potential spread of communism, initiated a comprehensive campaign of support for the Mujahideen. These guerrilla fighters, a diverse group of Afghans, stood firm in their resistance against the invasive Soviet forces. This wasn't mere coincidence, it was an outcome of a well-orchestrated and strategic decision by the superpowers. To the USA and UK, the Mujahideen symbolized a definitive bulwark against the creeping expansion of influence. Financial aid was funneled into the cause, with the USA and UK also providing military training and high-end weaponry. This wasn't just to bolster the Mujahideen's defensive capabilities, it was a calculated move to shift the balance of power in their favor, effectively turning what was initially a local conflict into a proxy war fought on Afghan soil. Despite the relentless conflict, the Mujahideen, strengthened by the support of the USA and UK, managed to successfully repel the Soviet forces. The aftermath. The aftermath of this victory, however, was far from triumphant. The Soviet retreat left a power vacuum that was rapidly filled by the Taliban, a regime that morphed from a beacon of stability into an oppressive force. Simultaneously, the turbulent era saw the rise of Al-Qaeda, a militant Islamist group led by Osama bin Laden. The anarchic state of Afghanistan provided fertile ground for their growth. The birth of Al-Qaeda was an unintended consequence of the USA and UK's earlier support for the Mujahideen, its ranks filled with veterans from the struggle the Soviets, including bin Laden himself. Despite the original aim of the USA and UK's involvement in Afghanistan being to stifle the spread of communism, it ironically facilitated the rise of the Taliban and the formation of Al-Qaeda. The strategic decisions made under the necessities of the Cold War had far-reaching and unforeseen consequences: a power vacuum post-Soviet retreat, the emergence of extremist groups like the Taliban, and continued instability in the region, all contributing to the deepening quagmire that is the USA and UK's involvement in Afghanistan. On that fateful morning of September 11, 2001, the world stood still. As the clock struck 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center, causing an inferno that could be seen from miles away. Less than an hour later, United Airlines Flight 175 hit the South Tower, leaving the world in no doubt that this was not an accident, but a coordinated terrorist attack. A third plane, American Airlines Flight 77, impacted the Pentagon, while a fourth, United Airlines Flight 93, crashed into a field in Pennsylvania after passengers thwarted the hijackers. The death toll was staggering, with nearly 3,000 innocent lives lost in an instant. The global reaction was swift and unified. People across continents watched in horror, disbelief, and sadness as the Twin Towers, once a symbol of American prowess, collapsed into a heap of rubble and dust. In the ensuing chaos, grief, the hunt for the culprits began. The trail quickly led to Afghanistan, a country under the rule of the Taliban, known for their oppressive and brutal regime. Afghanistan was identified as the harborer of Al-Qaeda, the terrorist organization masterminding the horrific 9/11 attacks. The USA and UK, shocked and enraged, didn't hesitate. Within a month, on October 7, 2001, they launched Operation Enduring Freedom, a military campaign targeting the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. This was not merely a response, it was a declaration of intent to dismantle Al-Qaeda, oust the Taliban from power, and ensure that such a tragedy would never be repeated. This firm stance under the banner of the War on Terror spurred many nations into action, recognizing the global threat posed by terrorism. Countries rallied around the USA and UK, forming a coalition to combat this menace. The United Nations too acknowledged the need for decisive action against those responsible for the 9/11 attacks, albeit with a sense of caution. Thus, the 9/11 attacks were the immediate catalyst for the USA and UK's military intervention in Afghanistan. The reverberations of that September morning in 2001 are still felt today, steering the course of history and shaping our ongoing battle against global terrorism. The War on Terror marked an epochal shift in the foreign policies of the USA and UK, particularly in their engagement with Afghanistan. To decipher this complex saga, we must delve deeper into the objectives and strategies of the War on Terror. Initiated in the wake of the devastating September 11 attacks, the War on Terror aimed to obliterate the extremist Taliban regime, the sanctuary for Al-Qaeda, the organization behind the 9/11 attacks. This was not a task, it required an intricate and carefully adopted strategy. The USA and the UK, in partnership with their allies, embarked on a military campaign christened Operation Enduring Freedom in the initial phase of the War on Terror. Far from being a simple show of force, this operation was a meticulously devised strategic move designed to topple the Taliban regime, which had been providing safe harbor to Al-Qaeda. The tenacity of the coalition forces was apparent as they made significant inroads toward their goal. By December of the same year, the Taliban regime was successfully dethroned. However, this was just the tip of the iceberg. The relentless pursuit of Osama bin Laden, the architect of the 9/11 attacks, underscored a pivotal part of the War on Terror. This pursuit was unwavering, and it ultimately reached its denouement with bin Laden's extermination in May 2011, nearly 10 years after the inception of the war. Yet the USA and the UK's aspirations were not solely confined to military victories. A paramount objective was the establishment of a democratic government in Afghanistan. The Bonn Agreement in December of 2001 laid the groundwork for this development, leading to the establishment of the Afghan Interim Authority. This marked a monumental step towards reinstating stability and governance in a nation devastated by war. However, the road to establishing a stable democratic government was riddled with setbacks. The country was plagued with corruption, and the resurgence of the Taliban continually threatened the peace. The War on Terror magnified the USA and UK's involvement in Afghanistan. It drastically altered the nation's political landscape, and the ramifications of this involvement are still keenly felt today. As we progress in our exploration, we will discover that despite these significant strides, the conflict was far from resolved. It morphed into one of the longest military engagements in the history of both nations. Despite experiencing initial triumphs, the USA and UK found themselves deeply embroiled in an enduring conflict in Afghanistan. It was not merely a battle of superior firepower, it was an intricate maze incorporating politics, culture, and geography, making it anything but a clear-cut task. The resurgence of the Taliban, initially ousted from power, proved to be a recurring obstacle. Regrouping and returning with a vindictive spirit, fueled by a potent mix of ideological passion and resentment, they emerged as a formidable adversary. Their guerrilla warfare tactics and intimate knowledge of the unforgiving landscape underscored the complexities of fighting an unorthodox war on unfamiliar turf. Moreover, they faced the daunting task of setting up a stable government, which turned out to be a steep climb. Despite concerted efforts to instill democracy, the country stayed fragmented with various tribal entities and factions battling for authority. The political landscape was analogous to ever-shifting sands, with alliances being formed and disintegrated, further muddying the waters. Corruption was rampant, and shockingly, despite the injection of billions of dollars in aid, a significant portion seemed to vanish into thin air, leaving the average Afghan citizen scarcely better off. The continuous costs of the war posed another major challenge. Financially, the expense was astronomical, totaling trillions of dollars. But perhaps even more critical were the human costs. The lives tragically lost, the families heart-rendingly torn apart, and communities left decimated. There was also the mental strain on the servicemen and women stationed thousands of miles from their homes, often in hostile and unforgiving environments. Additionally, the war triggered a ripple effect that contributed to regional instability and caused tension between allies and adversaries. It also diverted vital resources and attention away from other urgent issues on both domestic and international fronts. These multifaceted challenges transformed the USA and UK's intervention in Afghanistan into a long-drawn conflict. While the endgame remains uncertain, the lessons unearthed from this protracted engagement provide invaluable insights for potential future conflicts. The USA and UK's involvement in Afghanistan has left a deep and enduring impression. A closer look into the aftermath of this prolonged engagement offers valuable insights. The process of troop withdrawal for instance, signified the end of an era. The gradual departure of soldiers, their final goodbyes echoing across the barren landscapes, drew a line under an intense period of foreign military intervention. As the last of the soldiers boarded their flights back home, they left behind a nation in turmoil. Afghanistan's future was uncertain, its present teetering on the brink of chaos. The void left by the exit of foreign forces was promptly filled by the Taliban, the group that the USA and UK had spent years trying to unseat. Their return to power was swift and ruthless, their iron grip on country unyielding. However, the political landscape was not the only thing that changed. The people of Afghanistan were faced with an escalating humanitarian crisis, one that seemed to grow worse with each passing day. Food and water became increasingly scarce, medical facilities in short supply, and widespread poverty the grim reality for many. Foreign aid, once a reliable lifeline, dwindled to a trickle, leaving the struggling masses to fend for themselves. As the world watched from a distance, a nation was left grappling for survival. But amidst the wreckage and ruin, important lessons were being learned. The USA and UK's involvement in Afghanistan has sparked intense debate about the merits of foreign intervention. It raised critical questions. When is it appropriate to intervene? What responsibilities does a foreign power shoulder during and after intervention? These are complex questions, ones that don't yield easy answers but are now shaping discussions on foreign policy. Indeed, the Afghanistan experience has led to a revamping of strategy. The focus has shifted from military intervention to diplomatic solutions, and efforts to build local capacities. Underscored by this shift is a newfound emphasis on understanding the cultural, political, and social landscapes of a region before intervention. It's a strategic evolution that reflects a more cautious, considered approach, mindful of the repercussions of intervention. However, these changes came with a heavy price tag. Lives were lost, resources depleted, a nation left in disarray. But it's these very losses that underscore the crucial importance of learning from history, of making sure that lessons of Afghanistan are not lost in the annals of time. The USA and UK's experience in Afghanistan has fundamentally reshaped their approach to international conflicts. The aftermath is a stark testament to the complexities inherent to such engagements and serves as a poignant reminder of the far-reaching implications of foreign intervention. Thank you for joining us on this comprehensive exploration of the USA and UK's involvement in Afghanistan. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to subscribe for more related videos like this. Like the video, which will help to motivate us, and share the video with friends and family so they can get knowledge about USA and UK's involvement in Afghanistan.